When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. Not because I was strong, not because it didn't hurt, but because sometimes pain is so deep that tears no longer come. It was the first morning of the new year. The house was quiet, no fireworks, no celebration, just the soft sound of the clock on the wall, reminding me that time never stops. She stood across from me in the kitchen. Her voice was calm, almost careful. I think it would be better if you started the year somewhere else. I looked at her face, young, serious, certain. I nodded slowly. All right, I said. Inside, my heart folded in on itself. That morning, instead of making wishes for the new year, I packed my life into one small bag. As I stepped outside, cold air touched my face. The sky was pale and quiet. I paused at the door and whispered, the only words my soul could form. I surrender this new year to you, Lord. I didn't know then that surrender would become my greatest strength. I have always believed the new year should begin with prayer, not with noise, not with promises we forget, but with stillness. I believed if I placed the first day in God's hands, the rest would somehow find its way. I raised my son that way. After my husband passed away, life became smaller, but it became deeper too. Every morning I prayed before the sun rose. Every night I thanked God, even when I was tired. My son grew up watching that. He learned that faith was not loud, it was steady. When he married, I was happy. I truly was. I told myself, now the family is complete. I didn't know that sometimes new beginnings quietly push old ones aside. We lived together after the wedding. It made sense. Money was tight, and I believed family should stay close. In the beginning, I tried to be helpful but careful. I didn't want to interfere. I didn't want to cross lines I didn't understand. I woke early. I cleaned quietly. I spoke gently. I thought love meant making yourself small for others. Every morning before anyone woke, I stood near the window. I surrender this day to you, Lord. Keep peace in this home. Peace became my daily prayer. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then small things began to change. She stopped sitting with me in the evenings. She stopped asking questions. Her smiles became shorter. My son came home tired more often. Not just tired in his body, tired in his spirit. I noticed them whispering behind closed doors. I told myself it was normal. New marriage, new life. I chose not to see what was forming in the silence. As the year came to an end, I felt something shifting. They talked about plans, about changes, about starting fresh. I listened quietly. No one asked what my plans were. On the last night of the year, fireworks sounded in the distance. People laughed outside. I sat alone in my room with my prayer book. I surrender the coming year to you, Lord, I whispered. Whatever it brings, I didn't know that by morning, everything would be different. The new year did not begin with hope for me. It began with letting go, and sometimes that is exactly how God begins his work in us. The first few days of the new year pass slowly. People say the new year feels fresh, clean, full of promise. For me, it felt empty. I was still in the house then, still waking up in the same room, still hearing the same sounds. But something had changed. I moved through the home like a guest, careful with my steps, careful with my words. Every morning I folded my blanket neatly. I cleaned my corner of the room. I left nothing behind. I surrender this day to you, Lord, I whispered. Teach me how to walk gently. The kitchen used to be my place. It was where I felt useful, where I felt needed. Now it was quiet. She cooked on her own. She arranged things her way. I stood by the door sometimes, unsure whether to enter. Once I offered softly, "Would you like help?" She smiled politely. "No, it's okay." That was all. I stepped back. Not hurt, just aware. Even kindness can build walls. when it no longer includes you. My son noticed, I think. Sometimes our eyes met for a second longer than usual. He wanted to say something. I could feel it. But words never came. One evening he said quietly, "Mom, you don't have to do everything." I nodded. "I know." I replied. What I didn't say was this: doing things was the only way I still felt connected. That night, I prayed longer. I surrender this day to you, Lord. Help me release what I can no longer hold. When the house was empty, memories came. I remembered the first year I moved into this home, how new everything felt, how hopeful I was. I remembered my son as a child, running through these rooms, laughing, calling my name. I touched the wall where his height was once marked with pencil lines. They were faded now. Time removes marks quietly. So does life. I began to notice unspoken rules: which chair I should not sit in, which cupboard I should not open, when I should stay in my room. No one said these things out loud, but I felt them. Respect, I learned, can sometimes turn into distance when fear replaces understanding. I didn't want to cause trouble. I didn't want to be the reason for tension. So I adjusted. Silently. One afternoon she spoke to me again. Her tone was calm, measured. "We're trying to start this year fresh," she said, "with new habits." I listened. "It would help if we had more space," she continued. I nodded slowly. "I understand," I said. She looked relieved. Relief can hurt when you realize your absence brings comfort. I returned to my room and sat down. "I surrender this year to you, Lord," I whispered, "even if it means stepping aside." That night, I asked God something I had never asked before. Did I stay too long? Did I forget my place? The room was quiet. No answer came in words, but peace settled in my chest. And I understood something gently. Love does not always mean staying. Sometimes it means knowing when to leave. The new year was teaching me a lesson early. Not about celebration, not about success, but about release. And soon I would have to choose between holding on and trusting God to carry me forward. As the days moved forward, the space in the house grew wider, not in rooms but in hearts. Meals were no longer shared. We ate at different times, in different places. Sometimes I heard plates clink in the kitchen. I waited until the sound stopped before I went in. It was not fear. It was respect mixed with sadness. "I surrender this day to you, Lord," I whispered each morning. "Help me walk through it with grace." One morning I noticed the laundry basket full. Without thinking, I began folding clothes. She entered the room and stopped. "Oh," she said softly, "I'll do that later." Her voice was not angry, just firm. I stepped back. "I'm sorry," I replied. She nodded. That was all. I folded my hands instead. That moment stayed with me all day, not because of what she said, but because of what she didn't need. My son became quieter too. He stayed longer at work. He spoke less at home. One evening, he stood near my door. "Mom," he said, then paused. "Yes?" I asked. He sighed. "Nothing," he said softly. "Just take care of yourself." I smiled. "I always do," I replied. What I didn't say was this: I had been taking care of myself for a long time. There is a special kind of pain that comes from feeling unneeded, not rejected, just unnecessary. I used to think being useful was my role, my purpose. Now, without that, I felt unsure. Who was I in this house, if not the one who helped? At night, I sat quietly with my thoughts. "I surrender this day to you, Lord," I whispered. "Teach me who I am beyond what I do." One afternoon, she finally spoke plainly. "I hope you don't feel uncomfortable," she said, "but we're trying to build our own routine." Her words were careful. "I understand," I replied, and I truly did. Every family needs space to grow. Still, understanding does not erase hurt. It only softens it. That night, I lay awake. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I thought about my life, about my faith, about the woman I wanted to be. I realized something slowly. Staying might turn love into resentment. Leaving might protect it. I surrender this year to you, Lord, I whispered. Show me the right step. And in that quiet moment, the decision formed. The next morning, I began to pack. Not everything, just the essentials. A few clothes, my prayer book, a framed photo. Each item felt heavier than it should, not because of its weight, but because of what it meant. I packed slowly, gently, as if saying goodbye without words. Some decisions are not loud. They arrive quietly, like a truth you can no longer have. Oid. I did not know where I would go. I only knew I could not stay. And so, with a calm heart and trembling hands, I prepared to step into the unknown, with God as my only certainty. The day came quietly. No argument, no raised voices, no anger. Just a calm morning that carried a heavy truth. She stood near the kitchen table. My son was beside her, silent. We've been talking, she said gently, and we think it would be better if you stayed somewhere else for a while. Her words were careful, almost kind, but kindness does not always soften the blow. I looked at my son. He couldn't meet my eyes. That was when I knew the decision had already been made. For a moment I felt nothing, no tears, no anger, just stillness. Then slowly, a wave of sadness passed through me, not because I was being asked to leave, but because the place I called home no longer had space for me. I took a breath. All right, I said softly, if that's what you need. She nodded, relieved. My son swallowed hard. I wanted to say so many things. I wanted to remind them of years of care, of quiet sacrifices, of love given without asking. But love does not keep score, so I said nothing. Sometimes dignity is choosing silence. When you have every reason to speak, I surrender this moment to you, Lord, I whispered inside. Hold my heart steady. I went to my room and picked up my bag. It was already packed. That alone told me how long my heart had been preparing. I placed my prayer book inside. One last time, I touched the worn cover. This has never failed me, I whispered. I walked slowly toward the door. Every step felt heavy. No one stopped me. No one said, stay. Let's talk. Let's fix this. Silence followed me like a shadow. At the door I paused. I looked around the house one last time. The walls, the floor, the corners filled with memories. I surrender this home to you, Lord, I whispered, and the life I thought would stay here. I stepped outside. The door closed softly behind me. The air outside was cold. I pulled my shawl closer around my shoulders. With each step away from the house, my chest felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Lighter because the tension was gone. Heavier because love had been left behind. I didn't look back, not because I didn't care, but because some doors must be closed to protect what remains of your heart. That night I stayed in a small room offered by a distant relative. The room was simple, a bed, a chair, a window. It was enough. I placed my bag down. I unfolded my prayer mat. I surrender this new beginning to you, Lord, I whispered. Even if I don't understand it yet, for the first time in weeks, I slept deeply. In the days that followed, the pain arrived, not all at once, but in quiet moments. When I reached for my phone and remembered there was no one to message. When I made tea and realized no one else would drink it. When night fell and the silence felt too large, I let the pain come. I didn't fight it. I surrender this pain to you, Lord, I whispered. Teach me what it means. That was the moment everything changed. Not when I left the house, But when I stopped blaming myself, I understood something important. Being asked to leave did not mean I was unloved by God. It meant my season there had ended. And every ending, no matter how painful, carries the seed of a new beginning.